What's going on, everybody? It's Roygia coming at you with a brand new video. Now, if you've been keeping up with my Twitter, which you totally should, by the way, in the description for news channel updates, memes, and more, then you'll know that I recently just took first place at a case tournament near where I live with Bird Up. And while the first place is quote-unquote a stretch, given that we didn't actually play out top 4, we just went by points, I did have the best record, being undefeated except for one singular draw in the very first round, which was higher than everybody else at the tournament. So I was very excited to test out Bird Up at a more competitive scene because this build has only seen mostly play at a slightly less competitive locals and hasn't really seen play against like some of the current top decks as much. But I went up against some very strong strategies. My first round, which was the draw, was against ABC Therian Adventurer. And that was only a draw because, you know, if we would have had more time, I probably would have been able to cheese my way into a win because I had like a 6 material Zeus on board after wiping. But yeah, I was like sweating so hard at this event. I was like going absolutely ham. I was shaking in my first round. My second round, really quickly, actually it wasn't a 2-0, it was a 2-1 because hard activate Zombie World, but I beat Zombie World in my second game because third game he just played kind of like an idiot. He kind of just set Zombie World for some reason and passed. My third game was against Tenyi Sword Soul. When you go first, they kind of just have nothing to do. And then also, you know, Cheng Ying set one pass isn't very good. Round 4 was Adventurer Virtual World. A very interesting match, mainly because my opponent was playing like really slow, unfortunately, and I was kind of like getting annoyed, but we ended up having like a lot of time left by the time I beat him. And then my final round was actually a highly anticipated one. It was against Flunder. Game 1, I opened Ash Imperm against his Robina Eaglin. Or, yeah, it was Robina, like, map Eaglin, right? And he had no way to really go around that, and so he quickly decided to go to the next game. And then the next game, I not only drew 2 hand traps again, but his hand was so bad that he normal summoned Barrier Statue, set 1, activated D-Shifter, and passed. And he ended up scooping before I even drew for turn because he realized that it wasn't going to do anything. Yeah, there are a good few changes, or at least a few noticeable changes from my last couple of Bird Up lists that have been rather similar to each other, and so I'm very excited to get into that. And so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm sorry that my face cam actually isn't in this one like it has been before lately in my last few deck profiles because I am using my brand new boom arm, so I'm hoping that, you know, provides a better angle than using the tripod. But yeah, let's get into the actual list. Starting off, of course, with the Lyrilusc monsters, we have 3 copies of Lyrilusc Turquoise Warbler, 3 copies of Lyrilusc Cobalt Sparrow, 2 copies of Lyrilusc Celestine Wagtail, 2 copies of Lyrilusc Sapphire Swallow, and 2 copies of Beryl Canary. So I'm still rocking the exact same Lyrilusc ratios as I have been the last couple of lists, and now because of a certain card that we added to the deck, it is even more important to have ratios like this. I've been actually told by people that, oh, your bird ratios need some work, but people don't seem to understand that this isn't Tri-Brigade with a Lyrilusc engine, nor is a Lyrilusc with a Tri-Brigade engine. It's the decks are working in like a really strong harmony with each other. Like each archetype is equally as important as the other, unless, you know, certain situations like Barrier Statue, you'd rather see all birds, but regardless. I actually enjoy opening multiple birds because that allows me to go second a lot easier by going into Zeus. It allows me to have insane follow-up play. The amount of times where having the second Sapphires both come up for the next turn and because I drew one has been absolutely crazy. I think having a heavy Lyrilusc package does benefit you going second, especially because being able to just access Zeus just so free is just so nice. That's kind of the game plan, is you typically have like a few bird things, including a Beryl Canary or a way to get into it, and then maybe some Tri things to balance it out a little bit, and then you typically use those to bait all of your opponent's disruptions out, and then you end off by using your Beryl Canary, targeting something engraved, typically a Sapphire or even anything, and then you just go into assembled Zeus from there. That is actually one of the main reasons why I did decide to bring this deck over something like Marincess or Dynamorphia to this event, not only because I knew there'd be a bunch of adventure and Dynamorphia would get absolutely stomped, but also because unlike a deck like Marincess, this deck has both going first and going second play, and they're both basically equally strong. Hold up, I'm sorry, let me adjust my focus a little bit here. I'm so not used to having the camera like directly above the cards. But yeah, so the heavy Lyrilusc ratio was very good. I almost never actually bricked on these. The only time I could really brick is if I open like Cobalt Celestine and then no way to special them nor any Tri-Brigade monsters. And so yeah, I do like playing all of these extra copies, and it'll make a lot more sense when we get to the spell section. Of course, you can't have Bird Up without the Tri-Brigade section. we have the 3 copies of Tri-Brigade Fractal, the 3 copies of Tri-Brigade Nerval, the 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Kit, and the 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Karis. So I do not believe my last list was playing the 2 Karis, but I think 1 or 2 lists before that I was playing the 2 Karis. At this point, I highly advise against it, because the only times that I wanted to have that second Karis was in a situation where I'd already probably be winning, and I ended up drawing him way too much, because drawing him isn't a bad thing necessarily, especially if you open, like, birds that need to be special summoned, and, like, you have no way to get them on board. But you don't want to, like, open him every hand and then not have any actual way to access your Lyrilusc cards. So yeah, I think the 3 Fractal, 3 Nerval, 1 Kit, and 1 Karis is a perfect ratio. There's absolutely nothing I think that needs to be changed here. And even with the card that we will mention later, having only the 1 Kit, 1 Karis is perfectly fine. I'm sorry if my audio is a little bit quieter, by the way. I did have to turn the gain of my mic down a little bit because it was picking up the TV in the living room. But on the miscellaneous Beast Warrior Wing Beast, we have 1 copy of the Fabled Cerberel and 1 copy of DD Crow. Nothing too much to say here. The Fabled Cerberel is there to access your Herald Arclight plays, and then the DD Crow is a searchable hand trap that's going to be especially strong coming into Power of the Elements format against tier elements. And DD Crow just put in so much work at the tournament, being able to stop things from being revived and such or being added back to hand is always a treat. So that's all we have for the actual monsters. Let's go ahead and get onto the hand traps. So I played 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. So I feel like this is the better hand trap ratio that I could play. Honestly, opening multiple Ash is very painful, especially because Ash isn't as strong of a hand trap as it used to be. Because, yeah, you can hit certain things that could be very strong, but a lot of the time, it's either going to be inconsequential against a lot of the stronger decks, or you're going to be baiting it against, like, an adventure thing, or, honestly, it might not even come up at all. Like, some decks don't even touch their deck throughout the entire time. And so that's why I'd rather have a hand trap like Ghost Ogre in my hand, which is funny because I think I only saw Ghost Ogre once the entire tournament, as opposed to seeing it, like, every hand like I usually do. And it was against the Zombie World guys, so it didn't even really matter. But yeah, Ghost Ogre is an incredibly strong hand trap right now, being able to hit Faithful Adventures, being able to hit strong normal summons that they might need to keep on board, and all sorts of things like that. I actually also kept it in because of things like Union Hanger, which it almost actually came up. It would have came up had I actually, you know, drawn it. But yeah, like, it's funny that I actually did end up going against ABC Adventure Therian like I had expected, and I just didn't see the Ogre that I basically had for it. And then 3 Imperm, obviously, because Imperm is not only strong as a hand trap, but also as a board breaker, which I typically use to add of more. Because unless I open this with another hand trap, I don't feel like using it on my opponent's turn. I think it's a lot stronger, especially because I did cut the Forbidden Chalices to save it for the opponent's turn when they actually have their board built. So finally, onto the spells. We're going to start off with our 3 copies of Lyrilusc Bird Call and our 2 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. Very standard here. This is the first list that I've showcased with 2 Tenki. I highly believe that we are going to get a 3rd Tenki on the next list. It would make a lot of sense, honestly. And so definitely be sure to adjust for that, because a 3rd Tenki will be really nice, because having Fractal in any BBW and then any card in hand on top of that allows you to get basically full combo. And then, of course, 3 Bird Call is 3 Bird Call. So you probably already heard me suggesting about it and also seen it in the sidebar if you're not stupid. We did decide to run 2 copies of Pot of Desires for this event. So I'd never been a fan of Pot of Desires, even in the early days of Bird Up when it was like full power, because I didn't feel like banishing my combo pieces, because especially in the early days of Bird Up, I wanted a very set specific combo. I wanted to get full combo basically every time, and if I couldn't, I sort of crumbled a little bit. But now that the deck is quite linear still, but also very free-formy in certain situations, the Desires actually doesn't even matter. And the more that I thought about it when I wanted to add it, because I wanted to boost my consistency, right? The more that I thought about it, the more I realized, wow, Desires banishing stuff does not matter. If you banish the Revolt, I mean, you just get an extra material on Appaloosa instead, and you don't have to go into your Bearbrum. If you banish your Cerberel, you can go into an Ensemble combo, which I have showcased in an earlier profile, instead of going into the Arclight combo. If you lose something like Sapphire Swallow, which is a good part of the combo and only has 2 copies, well, as long as you have any level 1 available as normal summon, which, I mean, you will if you just do the combo, then you also have that still as full combo because you don't use your normal summon or Farragut, and so those are very flexible in terms of being able to use it. And so if you just normal summon and then link into the, using the Recital Starling into the Farragut anyway, and then just special the Nerval off the Farragut, then you still have access to full combo there. Desires is very inconsequential, and while it only came up in a couple of hands, it almost always drew me very strong cards like Dark Ruler No More, which of course is going to be very nice. And then also it is amazing Ash bait in case you have something like Fractal that you need to go off. So yeah, I'm very happy that I decided to go with Desires, and if you are or were anti-Desires like I used to be, I advise to give it at least a little bit of a chance, honestly, especially if you're playing a higher bird ratio like I already played. And then of course we have the 1 Foolish Burial and the 1/1 for 1, very strong consistency power cards. We also have the 1 Called by the Grave to wrap up the 1-ofs, because, you know, this is an alternative copy of Fractal. This is kind of just insane extension. I always forget it every time I rebuild the deck. And then Called By is Called By. We want our combos to go through smoothly. Now you can probably see in the sidebar that that isn't it for the spells. Very interestingly enough, I very strongly suggested to our good friend M-Rocket, who actually just had a deck profile up on the channel. I should have it on the top right. I advised him that we should probably have some sort of main deck backer removal for things like Gozin, Tick-Boo, Rivalry for me, Skill Drain especially for both of us. And we didn't want to main Harpies because, you know, it's a Saki 1-of, and also it's not a quick play. We didn't want to main Twin because we didn't want to have to discard. And so we decided to technically play 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, because we couldn't find our Galaxy Cyclones. He never owned any, and I had at least 1 or 2, and I just couldn't find them. The only reason that this isn't a second MST right here is because our friend Chris actually managed to pick one up for me, which was really nice of him. And so yeah, it actually didn't come up as much as I expected it. I believe I only used it against like a couple of face downs, or it was usually just put back on the bottom of the deck, which is a benefit of it. You can just always get rid of it. And it was also great card to side out. But I did main deck these to deal with things like Mystic Mine, all sorts of floodgates in the back row, the continuous traps. Or honestly, it can also work very well during like the standby phase for certain things. It can work against things like Branded Lost or Meltdown, or Union Hanger that need to stay on field to resolve. And it can get things like Blackout out of the way, or in a Tri-Mirror could actually bait out the Revolt, which is very strong as well. Again, these didn't come up very often. They would have in my Flunder match if the Flunder player would have remembered to Mystic Mine turn 1. He was going to sit on Recital Starling in Mystic Mine, but then he realized after I explained it a little bit better to him that he couldn't, like, even though the Flunder effects were negated, because he activated them, he still couldn't special from the extra deck. And so he forgot to activate the Mystic Mine after that because he was a little bit flustered. So yeah, but these probably would have come up because I did have Desires in hand, so I probably could have drawn into them. But yeah, I am pretty content that I played this because it never really like hurt me or anything like that. And so if you want to play it, go ahead. But this is 42 cards, and so it's very inconsequential if you play it or not. And then finally, to wrap up the main deck, we have the 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Revolt. This card's insane. It's one of the best things in the entire deck, in my opinion, and one of the main reasons why if Bird Up came back to full power, I'd probably adjust the full combo a little bit, because the follow-up that this gives is just crazy. But if you do banish it off of the Desires, it doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, that is it for the main deck. Again, we are playing 42 cards. Onto the extra deck, I don't think anything has changed from the last time, but of course I will still showcase it regardless. With the Xyz monsters, we have 1 copy of Lyrilusc Recital Starling, 1 copy of Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale, and 1 copy of Lyrilusc Ensemble Robin. Of course, all of your Lyrilusc monsters that you want to play, and these are the optimal ratios because, you know, 1 Recital Starling, unfortunately still. Konami, please bring back the second one. She did nothing wrong. But yeah, the 1 Recital is part of your combo. The Ensemble is an alternative combo piece, and Assembled is very good for going into Zeus. Though I've noticed, honestly, if I do make access code, or if for some reason my opponent's board is clean, I would rather honestly just use the Ensemble as Zeus food, and then just save the Assembled for pushing for game later, because I'm already pushing for a lot of damage. But yeah, these 3 gals are amazing and will hold the entire deck together, and without any of them, honestly, I think the deck would completely fall apart. The last of the Xyz monsters are as to be expected. We have 1 copy of Downer Magician and 1 copy of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder. Honestly, your best going second condition, and one of the main things that keeps this deck from falling apart as well. Zeus just carries a lot of Tri variants because, you know, you got the Zoo variant, they just normal summon Zeus basically. This deck just eats Zeus for breakfast. Honestly, even the Lunalight build, which is basically just what Pure Tri used to do with a rank 4, can still access rank 4s and just go into Zeus as well very easily. I like what Zeus has done for decks that can access Xyz monsters. They make it a lot more bearable to go second, but also giving you a play to do even if your opponent doesn't have a board, but using this as your own board piece there. There's actually been a lot of times where I've ended off on Zeus with like 4 materials and then like a Revolt. And like I use the Revolt first, get the Fractal from deck, and get the Banish off a Shurig. and then I use Zeus detaching, sending everything including Shurig, and then Shurig will float into a Barrel Canary, which can access another rank 1 next turn, which is very strong. On to the Link monsters. Alright, I did turn the gain of my microphone up just a little bit more again. We have the 1 copy of Salamangreat Almirage, the 1 copy of Ancient Warriors of Double Dragon Lords for your more miscellaneous Link monsters, which I'll put to the side actually immediately so we can make room for the Tri-Brigades, because we have 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Farragut, the Baron Blossom, 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Bearbrum, the Rampant Rampager, 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Rugal, the Silver Sheller, and 2 copies of Tri-Brigade Shurig, the Ominous Omen. Farragut's part of your combos, being able to special summon your stuff from your hand is great. Bearbrum is not only your Revolt Searcher, but also facilitates a lot of different combos, especially through hand traps by just discarding 2 to summon any of your level 4 or lower banished BBWs. Rugal is only really here as access code food, and if you're desperate enough to use like Bearbrum and then any level or any like monster to go into Rugal just to access Revolt. And then 2 Shurig is optimal for having 1 for your combo and 1 for your Revolt. Honestly, one of if not the only card that I would ever suggest cutting from this extra deck if you want to make room for something else is the Rugal, because while he's not while he's very strong, he's not like necessary. But in my eyes, he is necessary enough to warrant playing, because just being able to access code off of just Fractal alone is very, very nice. For the remaining links, we have 1 copy of Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, because it's Appaloosa and your main combo piece. When all else fails, even if you can't full combo, you can just Appo Revolt and you're usually fine. And then, of course, access code Talker in order to close out games, because this card is so free in this deck. And then finally, to wrap up the extra deck, we have the 1 copy of Herald of the Arclight, because it's an amazing Omni Negate and Floodgate that can destroy so many decks and turns off things like Droplet. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that should be the end of the deck profile. So this video is long enough, so I won't bore you with another combo tutorial, which is the exact same combos as they have been in my other videos. So if you want to go see the combos, be sure to check out the last few videos, especially the last one in particular, because I do showcase the full combo using Turquoise Warbler and Cobalt, as well as Fractal, any BBW, and then any card in hand. Plus, this is mainly just a list showcasing what I used at the case tourney and saw amazing success with, rather than just actually showing off what the deck can do. But let me know down in the comments below what you think about the deck profile, and if you have a similar list, or if you want to use this list, because I always love when people say that they've used my list and saw success with it. It's so much fun to hear. Because with that out of the way, that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as it helps put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. If you really like this content, you want to see more like it, like the rest of my deck profiles, I am the self-proclaimed Bird Up God, so I have a bunch of Bird Up deck profiles every time a new format comes out. Then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're very close to 1,500 subscribers, plus it supports the channel more than anything else, and of course, it's absolutely free. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.